Hello everyone, and welcome to the webinar today. We are excited to hear about Supercharging Excel for financial reporting and budgeting with Kuhmo. We have Warwick here who will be presenting to us today. And we just ask that if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to type them into the questions box. We'll get them called out at the end of our webinar session. And we do record all of our webinars, so no need to worry. This will be available on our website later this week for you to review again or to share with any of your colleagues. And so now I'll turn it over to Warwick and he'll start our presentation.
Hi Angie, thank you very much for that lovely introduction. One of the things I think we were going to do is throw some poll questions up. Did you want to do that now?
Yes, I do have some poll questions for you, so I'll throw those up. And give me just a moment for it to launch.
No worries. I see it pop up on my screen. Awesome. So today I'm going to show you Kuhmo and how Kuhmo works for all of our clients and potentially for you. Kuhmo is a reporting and budgeting focused tool. So we don't try and replace your accounting system or your ERP. So whether you've got SL, NAV, Dynamics 365, maybe you've got entities or GP, AX, maybe you've got entities with, even with QuickBooks or SAP or Oracle. Kuhmo can connect to all of those systems and bring your data together into one place. And we want to show you how that hangs together. And I can see we're getting some results coming through here at the moment for the polls. One of the problems that people have, and I'm going to touch on quite heavily today, is how we streamline and how we automate those processes that take place. So one of the questions is, what's the biggest problem you have with reporting and budgeting? And it's the manual labor, the amount of time that people spend reporting and budgeting. Now, with Kuhmo, I've got a lot of stories about what our clients have achieved with Kuhmo. Thinking about reporting, we have clients, I always ask my clients, hey, what would it be like if I took Kuhmo away today? 9 times out of 10, they say they'd leave, they'd quit, they'd go and buy Kuhmo and bring it back. It'd be a disaster. And a lot of people say, look, I really can't remember what it was like before Kuhmo because we've got our reports at our fingertips instantly. As soon as the last journal's posted, we're ready to go. When it comes to budgeting, we have budget administrators who actually take vacation during the budget time because it's all automated. And they still have work to do when they get back. They've got to vet the numbers and share the data. But it's a wonderful place to be when you've got that fully automated. So I don't know if the other question's been asked yet, Angie.
Not yet. So it was 50-50. So one
Yep.
said, or 50% said hours, and then the other half said there were no problems. They're just staying abreast with the market.
And that's a good idea. It's always worthwhile checking out the newer technologies that are coming through. So sometimes you think you've got no problems until you see, ooh, maybe there's a better way. Cool. Now, what's the next question? What are you using for budgeting? So let's see what people say. Well, we've got Excel at 100% so far. And it might be Excel. And that's really typical, Angie. Most organizations, they might have a reporting tool. They might have a financial package, an accounting package, but people fall on Excel for budgeting and forecasting, and that's honestly the answer to the questions that we expected. So 100% of people said they're using Excel today. So I think they're really going to enjoy this session. So I think by the look of it, I am on air and showing my screen. So I'll get into it. We've done the intros. I'm Warwick from Kuhmo. So I'm going to scoot through these slides pretty quickly. I like to show people product so they get a sense of what Kuhmo can do and give people a vision for how Kuhmo might work in their organization. So the takeaways today is obviously position Kuhmo for reporting, budgeting and forecasting. Understand our competitive advantages against our #1 competitor, which is Excel. There are other tools out there, but Excel is the tool that most people use, and it's a great tool. We actually lean on it in Excel with Kuhmo, and you're going to see how that works. And also understand how our customers have been able to improve their lives, their business lives, and even their home lives by spending more time at home with Kuhmo. Now, I would do us an injustice if I didn't say that Kuhmo is ranked #1 in the world's largest BI survey. BI is business intelligence reporting. Budgeting and forecasting falls into that sometimes as well. And they're just some of our awards from the last 2 years. This year's awards are coming out, and we've scored even better again. The results are ridiculous. And these results are compared to products in our class. So when it comes to support, business benefit, price to value ratios, etc., Kuhmo comes up #1 year after year, and that makes us really proud. So the typical business challenges that organizations have, like everyone's got on this webinar today, and people who are going to be watching this video, they're going to have the same problem. Data from many places, whether it's budgeting or reporting, you've still got people drawing data from a whole lot of different systems. It might be a sales system. Maybe you've got all of your data in your general ledger system, but perhaps you've got some KPIs and other things that are driven from that system, like FTE is sometimes a tricky one. Some people believe an FTE is 0.9 versus 1. So something like Kuhmo gives you the power to bring all of that data together into one place. So centralize your data into one place. So you've got one place to go to know, or one version of the truth, as you've heard in the past. When you've got that one version of the truth, a central place for your data, it's got to be really quick. So we use some pretty cool technology that I'll talk about in a moment. And we also believe Excel and web integration is absolutely vital. And when I say integration, I mean data is updated in Excel and updated in the web as well, real-time data. So even if you're budgeting data, I want to see a full consolidated result immediately. Maybe I'm typing numbers into a web page. I want to see that result on my Excel spreadsheet, or vice versa. Kuhmo also integrates into Word and PowerPoint. So maybe you've got report packs at the end of a budget or reporting cycle you need to create. Kuhmo can mass produce those reports as well automatically. We're all about automating as many processes as we can. And we do that because it reduces risk, speeds up the process, and people actually get involved when it's easy. And that's obviously the outcomes on the right there. So what does Kuhmo look like? This is obviously wrapped around Microsoft Dynamics. So if we start at the bottom here, whether you've got one company or many, whether you've got one data source or many, Kuhmo today, you've got, and here are all your different, some of the different data sources that you've got. Today, you've got a whole lot of different options for reporting that data. It could be FRX if you're on an older system, Management Reporter for newer. Excel is a classic. We already know everyone uses Excel on this webinar for budgeting. Forecaster, Microsoft Forecaster, and SSRS, plus, and that's SQL Server reporting services, by the way, SSRS, plus a multitude of other options. Then you've got to deliver that data somehow, email spreadsheets, have people install Forecaster, maybe you've got some sort of SharePoint combination of things for getting this data to people, but hang on, we've got people with Macs and they really want to see real-time data, but they can't. How do we do that? It's a pain with Kuhmo to bring all of that data together, because often GL data might be coming through Management Reporter, but we've got our sales and inventory coming through reporting services, because that's coming out of a different system. AR and AP 9 times out of 10 are always in Excel, and none of it's connected. I can't look at a sales report and find out what my my AP is on that report. Have I got money due from people, and should I be calling them and collecting? I just don't have that visibility in this sort of environment. So ideally, we overlay Kuhmo on all of those reporting tools and have one reporting and budgeting tool that does all of those things. So we can still bring all of our data in from all of our various sources into one place. And Kuhmo, underneath the hood, has a data warehouse. We use Microsoft SQL Server. We also use Microsoft Analysis Services. That's cube-based technology. It's been around for Cube-based technology has been around as long as relational technology. Relational technology is the technology that's used for your transactional database, so for your accounting systems. The cube technology has been around for just as long, but doesn't get used as much because for some people, they think it's tricky, but it's really not. Kuhmo makes it super easy. The big question is, why do we use cubes at Kuhmo? I've been using cube technology for a long time. I don't want to give away my age, but it's if I say over 20 years, you'll get a bit of a sense of it in my working life. Cubes are super fast, anywhere from 100 to over 1,000 times faster than non-cube technology. So if you don't have a need for speed, if you don't mind waiting an hour or two, or even a minute or two for data, then maybe you don't need cubes. But if you want your data coming back sub-second or sub-10 seconds, then cubes are for you. They're certainly for me. I don't like hanging around. So Kuhmo draws that data into our data warehouse and presents the data through the cube, and you can also write back into those data cubes too, and you can even push the data back down into your general ledger system if you want to. So Kuhmo gets rid of a whole bunch of different tools, enhances one tool, and I'm going to show you that in a moment. So let's have a look at the demo. So I'm going to find Excel. This is Microsoft Excel, Angie. And if you can't see my screen, Angie, you will let me know, won't you?
I will let you know, but I can see it, so no issues.
Awesome, thank you. So this is Microsoft Excel. I'm starting here for a reason. And the reason is everyone on this call, everyone watching this video is going to know Excel. They're going to know it intimately. Why do we use Excel with Kuhmo? The reason is because you all know Excel intimately. You know how it works. The worst thing we found, and I've used many tools in the past, is giving people, finance and analysts, a tool that requires programming. Kuhmo is a non-programming tool. So how do you create a reporting tool and a budgeting tool that requires no programming? Well, you need an interface that people are familiar with, and Excel is the number one. It's our number one competition, but rather than push it away and not use it, we actually embrace it like this. So let's say I want to build a new report. I'm going to show you a really easy way to build a report, and then I'm going to show you some pre-built reports where I've spent more time on them, and some input templates so you can see how the budgeting works as well. You get to see all of that today. But the first question we always get is, hey, how do you build a report? Well, you open Excel. Once you open Excel, you go to your Kuhmo ribbon. Now, only administrators and power users and designers get the Kuhmo ribbon in Excel. We also have a ribbon in PowerPoint and Word for your report automation through those technologies as well. Now, I happen to have logged in to Kuhmo in Excel just to speed the process up. I'm using my cloud, my Kuhmo cloud environment here as well. So the login asks for my username and password. We're SOC 2 certified, so it's very secure. We actually run our cloud environment in Microsoft Azure, and that's a very trusted and very fast environment as well. Kuhmo will run on your premises too, so if you do want to run it on premises, that's fine. So how do we build a report? Now you'll notice that I don't have a lot of buttons here. We try to keep Kuhmo as simple and as user-friendly as possible by not cluttering. We could try to keep it clean, but giving a lot of functionality. So let's go and build a brand new report, and it's only going to take a few moments. I hit the Browse button. I'll just move this across. I hit the Browse button, and Kuhmo automatically opens up my Workbench. Now I'll just maximize that. Within my Workbench, I've got some options. Now, some of you may have noticed this looks a lot like Chrome. That's because it is. Kuhmo will default and use your favorite web browser as the initial report designer, as well as for management, for security and things like that. It means that we have a single interface throughout your whole journey within Kuhmo. So you're not jumping from a designer to a weird test environment to some code window and then have a process build thing and then here's your outcome over here and 5 different installations of different products. We don't do anything like that. When you're a designer, you get Excel and the Excel add-in and then you use a web browser. So it's really, really familiar. A lot of people don't even realize they're in a web browser, which is cool. Now, if I want to build a new report, I click on this data tab. I've got some other options over here, but we're just going to focus on data. This is for security. This tells me, you know, takes me to the help and things like that. But if I click on data, it's going to open a drawer. These are called drawers. If I click on that again, you'll notice it slide in and out, just like a drawer, a normal workbench. So within my drawer, I've got a data source. Now I'm going to have a whole lot of options under here because it's a demo environment and some people want to see a whole bunch of different sorts of environments. I'm going to keep it really simple. I'm just going to click over here and I'm going to click AdventureWorks. Let's pick the very first one. Now under there, I've got some cubes. So if we focus on channel sales, direct sales, finance, mind customers, this is AI. Kuhmo actually offers artificial intelligence as a part of the tool set. I'm not going to show you that today. That is relatively advanced stuff, like how many widgets am I going to sell over the next 3 months, or based on customer sentiment data, what is the best marketing strategy I should take? Those sorts of things, and that's some deep math that takes place there. But I'm going to keep it pretty simple and go with finance, a general ledger cube. And I clicked on that cube. Now remember, I'm going to build a report. And to build that report, I need to get my ingredients out on my workbench. So the first part of my ingredient is to get my finance cube. Next, I need to open up my box, my finance cube box, which is what we've done here. And within it, I've got my ingredients for finance. I've got my business dimensions. So I've got things like accounts. Well, what I want to do is I actually want to create a report with accounts down the page. So I want to see those down the page here. And I want to see periods across the page with an actual budget variance. So let's just grab account and drag it. And there's net income. Yep, we're going to do net income, sounds fine. Let's expand date. And within date, I've got some options. I've got month of year. Well, that's great. I do want to see month of year. And if I expand that out, I've got January to December. Looks perfect. And I drill down and I'm starting to build my report slowly. I'm missing some things though. I run a fiscal year in this example. So I drill down on fiscal and I can actually view I'll move this over a little bit. I can view my data in many different calendar forms. This is a question we sometimes get, Angie, is, you know, we run a couple of different calendars. Can you do that with Kuhmo? You absolutely can, and this is an example where we've got calendar and fiscal. We have one client who had 4 financial years in 1 year. They were going through a buyout and they wanted to change the year to get the best outcome for the buyout. So they literally had 4 different years. Some organizations, their days don't all fall into a standard month. They might have the last few days of January fall into February, for instance, particularly in retail. So Kuhmo can handle that as well. So there's no limitations when it comes to dates. Let's grab fiscal year there and drag to the top. Now, I'm going to pause here and just show you something. We're looking at all periods. And if I hit this recalculate button, you can see how quickly this data is coming back. This is actually aggregating all years in this sample data. If I go and pick a single year, it automatically displays that data. So this isn't really nicely formatted. I'm going to format it in a moment. I'll show you how, but I'm still getting my ingredients on the page here. So I'm going to grab departments, looking at all departments. I'm not going to worry about currency. I'm going to grab organization, and we're going to get scenario. Scenario's got my actuals and budgets in it. It's a pretty general and generic term that people use. Version is another word for scenario. We use scenario. And I'm just going to drag it under period. Now we can see we've got actual, actual, actual. Almost there, almost there. So it's this easy to build a report. It's crazy. What I do want to see is my actual budget variance. So as you notice, when I mouse over things, I get this button pop up. When I mouse over my accounts, I get my accounts. When I mouse over scenario, I get scenario. Date, I get month and year. So I'm just going to click on that button, and that'll show our Member Explorer. Now you notice it just popped up automatically. I didn't get a lot of whiz-bang buttons to say, hey, what do you want to do? We keep it really simple. I'm going to click this Load All button and grab Actual, Budget. I can even use Control and Shift on my keyboard to drag and drop and hit OK. And Kuhmo's going to automatically grab that data and throw it on the page. So I'm nearly done. I'm nearly done with the ingredients, getting the ingredients together for my report. So it's super, super simple. This could also be an input template. The only thing that doesn't make it an input template is security. Now I know, I'll let that sink in a little bit. It's like, well, hang on. How can you have a reporting tool also do budgeting and forecasting and rolling forecasts and things like that? Well, cubes are so versatile. There's another reason for using cubes. You can report data, but they can capture data as well. But we do want to make sure that for whatever period is our current budget that we're reporting on and scenario, we can't write back. So we use cube security to manage that. But next year's budget, we want that open so people can enter their budget. And they can literally enter it through a page like this. And I'll show you that in a moment. So the next step is formatting. Let's make this look really nice, and it's super easy. I click this button here, Send to Excel. There's a lot of other options here. We've got charts and things like that. I'm just going to keep this simple. Send to Excel. And what Kuhmo is going to do is it's going to open up Kuhmo automatically. It's going to create a very special spreadsheet for me with no coding. It's just using Kuhmo and an Excel formula. And it's created a report based on that view I just had. We've got our years, we've got departments, organizations, as well as our accounts and our data. Let's have a look at the very first cell. We're in Excel. We have a special formula in here called a C-get formula that you only get with Kuhmo. And what does that mean? Well, I'm going to hit F9 on my keyboard to recalculate. That formula knows to go back, I'll click it again, to go back to my Kuhmo web server, and it says retrieving here to go and get the very latest data. So let's imagine you've posted a journal. It's year end or month end. Month end's an easier one, really. It's month end, you've posted a journal and you're ready to report. Post the journal, you get a button with Kuhmo to update the data warehouse. Depending on how many journals you post, it could take a few seconds to a couple of minutes if you've done a large data load. But then your reports are ready to go. Once the data's in the data warehouse, F9 in Excel, and you've got the latest data. Now let's format this, Angie. I'm not gonna spend a lot of time on it because I want to show a whole lot of other cool stuff. So I'm just using Microsoft Excel formatting. We've got a lot of columns over there to the right. I'm not going to format them all, but you can see them. Now I really want a bottom line. Net income's normally at the bottom. You notice I've got another formula that Kuhmo wrote for me. Now, by the way, we do have a formula editor that helps you write formula if you want or edit them. I'm pretty lazy. I'm just going to double click on this formula, and you'll notice that now Excel has become alive, not only with the latest data, but when I double click, things happen, particularly when I double click on this C member formula. So let's change this formula, and instead of insert after, let's make it insert, before, and see what happens when I double click. You notice Kuhmo's retrieving, going back and getting the latest data, and now I've got a bottom line, which is exactly what I want. So I'm going to flesh this report out a little bit. Now, because it's Excel, I can format this layout any way I like. So I'm going to drill out gross margin. I really want net sales and gross margin at the top. So I'll actually, instead of use the keyboard, I'll cut and paste. Oops. I'll pick the right button here and paste. Oh, I've got to pick the right size. Let's do that properly. Cut and paste it. Aren't the same size. Oh well, I'll cheat. I'll drag and drop using my awesome Excel skills. There we go. What I did there, by the way, was I held down Control, and I should have held down Shift. So if you do a Shift drag and drop, that'll actually grab cells and move them across. There's a whole bunch of Excel tips I've learned along the way using Kuhmo, working with customers. So all I did there was highlight the cells, drag with Shift held down, and it dropped it. And we'll ignore that change again. So let's insert some rows here. Let's do this. Starting to build up a report that's kind of looking nice. I'm just going to bold a few rows here like this. There's operating profit. We should insert that. And I'm going to drag and drop my selectors. Okay, so it's starting to look like a nice report. Let's type income statement by month, by scenario. And we've got a title. And again, I'm just using Excel format. So I'm talking about this Excel formatting a lot. And there's a reason for it. So I can now leave this report, I can change the column width. So I can leave it in Excel and it's fully functional. And what I mean by that is I can hit save and it'll save it. I can rename it, I can drop it into SharePoint, things like that, reopen it, and it's going to continue to function. I can actually double click on my organization. So these might be your segment codes out of your accounting system. And I can drill down in my Member Explorer. So this is what we saw on that other screen when we were slicing and dicing and picking the different scenarios. And I'll pick North Division, click OK. Now I've got AutoCalc turned off, so I can hit F9 and show you this. That $16 million is going to change and come down to 1.9 mil. So now Excel has turned into a template. I can do that for year and departments and any other business measure you have, or doesn't matter what you call it. Kuhmo is going to take an Excel spreadsheet using the Kuhmo formula and make it a template. That's a super powerful tool right there. What I often hear my customers say is, wow, you make Excel like it's on steroids. That's because we get rid of all of the linked spreadsheets and linked workbooks. I have no other tabs in this workbook, yet this one report can cater for every organization, every year, and every department. So that might only be 200 or 300 different views of data. For some organizations, it's significantly more, but it means I only need one report to cater for all of those different data sets. And I don't have to load anything more into this spreadsheet because we're linked back to our database, our data cubes, which in turn is linked back to our underlying accounting systems. So I could stop here if I wanted, but if I want to share this with Angie, because Angie said, hey, Warwick, I really need that report. The next thing I want to do is rename the sheet. We'll call it income statement. And I've done that for a reason. I've just called it income ST. Now, the next thing to do is to share it with Angie. And you'll notice I've got some weird formatting over here. Some numbers formatted, some not. Got some percentages and I've got dollar signs. I've done that on purpose. I'm going to throw in freeze panes because when you scroll across, you want to be able to see your data. Now, Angie's on the road right now. She's about to board a plane and she said, I need this report. Can you send it to me? I've only got my iPad. And I know that Excel doesn't open necessarily perfectly on the iPad all the time. Maybe she's only got her iPhone, it's a quick trip. So what I can do is click this button here, publish. Now for most people, they've never created a web page before. And this is what I'm about to do, is create a web page from this spreadsheet. So I'm going to click this button right now and watch what happens. So Kuhmo takes that Excel spreadsheet, uploads it into the Kuhmo data server, and within a few moments has converted that spreadsheet, there's the spreadsheet, into a web page. Now, if I wanted more grid lines like I've got on the Excel spreadsheet, actually I'll show you. Kuhmo's WYSIWYG. So if we turn this off, what you see is what you get, WYSIWYG. Here's what we've got in Excel. that's our freeze panes lines. We hide those in the web because they kind of look a bit ugly. But I still have freeze panes. I can scroll across. I can scroll down as well. And this is showing the latest data. I can still drill down into the latest data and it'll update automatically. I could pick different years and different departments as well. So in a few moments, I've created a report that is fully dynamic, that I can turn into a web page in an Excel environment. And it's going to be very hard to find another tool that does what Kuhmo does. Start in Excel, craft a report based on your underlying data, linked to your underlying data, data that you know and trust. Maybe it's an input template, and turn that into a web page. Format it however you like in Excel, and still have it dynamic. Still have people able to drill in and say, hey, that's really interesting, that data. I want to drill down into that. I want to learn more about this data. Sure. Why don't you drill into transactions? Click on that button, drill to transactions in the report. And Kuhmo is going to automatically show me any transactions I've got associated with that data. So hang on, I started in Excel, I created a report, and Kuhmo automatically adds a bunch of functionality to me, to my report. I drill down, I can pick my slices across the top. I can drill to transactions and do some analysis. Well, let's take gross sales. Actually, which operations or organizations are we looking at here? Well, everything's in US. That's interesting. Well, what departments? So I can start slicing and dicing this data. It's all in corporate. That's really interesting. That's because that's what I picked, corporate. So you can drill down very, very quickly. So that's how you build a report. And I wanted to show you that as step one. Step two is to move into a pre-built environment. Now you know how to build a report, to show you some of the things that Kuhmo can do. And everything here was built by someone like me, an accountant. Obviously, I've used Kuhmo for some time, but it takes you a very short amount of time to learn how to build a report. Within the first 2 hours of training, you're building reports. It gets a little hectic in training because once people are building reports with their data, the world's just open and you're able to get instant visibility into the organization within that first 2 hours that people have not had before. So let's have a look at some of the tools that have been set up, or some of the reports and input templates in this sample reporting and planning environment. So we've got some mobile screens, we've got dashboards, financial reports. We also have planning, analytics, so on and so forth. So this is something that's been set up purely for demo purposes, but it gives you a sense of what Kuhmo can do. I'm just going to pause for a moment, Angie, and take people over to cubes and how they work. This is really important. We talked earlier about the MS Dynamics data sources, SAP and other data sources, loading data, both dollars and non-currency, non-dollar-based data into Kuhmo. Typically what you would have is a general ledger cube. That's often the top of the cube hierarchy. The same is going to be true for your spreadsheets. You're going to have maybe an HR spreadsheet or workbook or workbooks, and a subset of data loads into the general ledger. Sales, inventory, and any other data as well. Within the cubes, we have those dimensions I mentioned and hierarchies, chart of accounts, company structures, so on and so forth. And then those cubes with Kuhmo are surfaced through, the data is surfaced through any device, any mobile device, with all these different options for viewing the reports. So what does that mean? Well, let's say, Angie, you're about to get on the plane and you wanted to check out your City Cycles dashboard. You can load this page on your phone and see this data. You can drill in on your phone and make some changes and see this data change. And you can see how quick it updates. Now I do like cycling, so I'm going to drill into road bikes. I'm a bit of a road bike rider, and I can see the top sales in this report here, and it automatically updates. We've got a lot of other reports here too. These are designed for iPads and phones, hence the white space, but they're fully dynamic, and you can see these charts automatically display data as well, and they all come from an Excel baseline. So however you want to format your report in Excel, it's going to automatically publish as web pages. Some really cool reports are these dynamic charts. These are really neat. I'm just going to move my menu over to the left a little bit here so we can really take in this whole picture. So we're still grabbing data, viewing data out of our data cube. And this is looking at sales data. And I've got quantity by product, sales by product. I've got sales by period. You can see how our sales are going by period. We've got a table over here. This is sales amount and it matches up. This actually gives us the dollars so I don't have to mouse over. Where things are being sold. LA's making a few sales. We can drill down into the detail and there's no one selling anything out there, but there's obviously a store. Oops, you've got to hit this button over here. And we can see that there's some sales, so we can use the pins in Google or Bing Maps to display data. So that's fun. So let's click on 2017 and all of our reports dashboards automatically update. Again, it's based on the data in the cube. So this is pretty interesting. What are our major customers? Who are they? And what are they selling? Well, we've got a few School of Fine Arts, a couple of School of Fine Arts there, and a few concert halls. We've got Cheetah Concert Hall really stands out. We're selling projectors and speakers. So we sell a lot of projectors, but we make a lot of money out of speakers. So let's drill down on speakers. And it's definitely the high-end mahogany speakers that sell. We sell a lot of them, and that's where we're making a lot of margin. That's interesting. Let's drill down further and see what happens. We've got two places that buy them, and clearly the Jaguar Concert Hall isn't buying as much as the Cheetah. So let's drill down on that. And now we can see they're buying it all in the first half, or which period? Second quarter, mostly in June. And they spent $1.5 million in June on speakers. So we can very quickly drill through our data cube and get information. Whether it's reporting or budgeting, again, this was built in Excel. It's super easy to manage. Now I can, excuse me, wind back. I want to show you something really cool here. We're just undoing the view. Now let's say I want to change this chart as an administrator. I can click this button here, click on the chart, and you're going to get a very familiar view, the very first view we looked at after Excel. This slice and dice area, except it's got a chart added to it. And here's where we can change our chart types, maybe make it line, change our colors, and a whole lot of other selections as well. So you've got a full suite of charts available to you, you know, multiple axes. Maybe you want to not sort, this is sorted. This is sorted by top 10 products, I'd say. So maybe you want to change it to top 20. You can manage that through here. So it's a very powerful environment. You've got your financial reporting. So your classic income statement by month. This is what I'd probably want to configure, the one I was working on right at the very beginning, and just copy and paste my formula. I forgot to mention earlier, Angie, when people are building reports, 9 times out of 10, you've got a bunch in Excel and input templates. We'll actually take your existing spreadsheets, pick 1 or 2 formats that are really good, or maybe you've got 10 different reports that you use all the time, and actually inject the Kuhmo formula into those so you don't have to build from scratch. It's a huge time saver. So that's something I should have mentioned earlier. Again, another input template, report. And this has got commentary over here as well. So Kuhmo, we win awards for our collaboration, even on reporting, because of comments that we can store with Kuhmo, which you might want to bold and save. And that's associated with this data. If I change the date, obviously the date is going to change and the comments change too. Again, all built in Excel, so it's super easy to manage. Now, the next bit that's super important, there's a whole lot of other reporting features, Angie, PDF, something called Magic Views, which is really, really cool. Linked analytics, where you can select a number and then be taken on a journey to discover more information, a guided journey, guided analytic journey that gives you answers quickly rather than having to fish around and hunt for data. Super, super useful. We have a major law firm who gives their partners and managers access to Kuhmo so they can do their own analytics. But it's not slicing and dicing data. It's not drilling down into charts like on the dashboards. It's actually more tabular-based reports. But they're able to select a cell and pick a different report that's going to have more information. For them, it's about their cases. So it's very easy for people to get around. And the reason this law firm's decided to do that is so they can actually get back to work, get their partners and people back to work and billable, because that's what they're there for. But when it comes to budgeting and planning, Kuhmo's got a lot of tools, and I'm going to keep it really simple. Again, this input template was built in Excel. The only difference was a budget scenario was selected for a year that you can write back. Now, in this example, white cells can be written back to. I can type in 5,000 and hit recalculate. Yep, and that'll type in 5,000. It's going to aggregate automatically across the page. So anytime anyone enters a budget number, you can see it instantly. So you don't have to wait for files to come back if it's Excel, or someone to process something if it's a different product. You can see the change immediately. Now, let's say I wanted to, I've got last year, I'm looking at controllables here for my Department Olympics. I've got workflow progress that ticked over automatically for my current region. Last year's spend, which is mostly actuals with a bit of budget, was $45,000. So let's just make it 45,000. Let's spend it based on last year. Let's have it spread based on my last year's trend. Just by typing in 45,000 at the year, it's going to automatically spread that data based on last year's trend. A whole lot of tools here, Angie, like highlighting cells. Maybe I want a 10% uplift because we know our contract says for local advertising it's going to increase by 10% from January. So we'll pick that, hit the check mark, updates it. Let's see what effect that's going to have. See if we're going to be over our variance. Yep, we're going to be over our variance spend on last year. This could be a target even, but that's okay. I know what that's going to be. As long as our total variance, whoa, it's out, but that's okay. There's reasons for that. Within our controllables, we can come back and change that later. Some people want to budget below the line. What that means is we may have an account like this, merchandise displays, but it's August. We've got Dynamic Summit coming up, and we should probably go and buy a whole bunch of koalas to give out to people. If you're coming to Summit, come by our booth, by the way. And you'll be able to see the data automatically aggregate. So we can put some more detail in there if we want. We can copy and paste from Excel. You can copy from or to Excel as well. So data entry is super simple. Now I'm going to move this across, and you'll notice down here we don't have any salary information. So I'm going to go to Payroll Planning. And this will be the last thing I show Angie before questions. Now, this is a sample. This is an Unreal input template. We needed to create and craft this input template and this model so we could fit a whole bunch of things in. So we've got a download from our payroll system with some people and some positions. We've got Mike and Kim and their current salaries. We've got some training days that we expect and potentially sick leave that we've allocated. And what we want to do is get some FTE in here for Mike. We know Mike's going to be here all year. So I'm going to pick Make Value, hit the checkbox, and refresh. Just by entering a 1, it's going to automatically calculate my on costs with some global drivers automatically keyed in, and I can change these too. I've got some what if analysis down here too. Now, if I slide across to the right and pick my payroll budget, I entered in my data and it's automatically consolidating this data through into my income statement. So again, any business model, any part of Kuhmo that's connected to that general ledger and cash flow and dashboards, anytime people have access to write the data back, you can actually see it happen. So you could be on the phone with people as you're entering data to see what effect and have a conversation, and again, collaborate. The data's calculating automatically. There's no fear of someone deleting a cell in Excel because we're using a web page to enter data, and the Kuhmo business model in the data warehouse is doing these calculations for us. So it's quite a powerful and easy to trust environment. People just have to put numbers in and the results automatically come through. There's no processing. So if I go back to payroll, we need to enter a little bit more data. All that 1 did was a multiplier effect. If I've got one person in 1 month, what's the salary for a month if the base salary is 140,000 for the year, and it'll automatically drive that through. Now for Kim, I actually want to enter her salary manually. So I'm going to highlight these cells, and she's going to be on 140K as well. and I want to spread that evenly across the page. And that's what it's going to look like. Refresh, and we're going to see 140K. Now, Kim's been doing super well, so let's throw a bonus in for her. In January, she's going to get $50,000. She's been doing really, really well. And we're going to see in January down here, big lump automatically coming through. So you've got a lot of features and functions when it comes to Kuhmo. This is just a sample, by the way. I want everyone on who's watching now and who's watching the video to know just an example of two things. One, payroll, HR planning with Kuhmo. Some people want to do their planning by person, some by date, some by position. Some people want start dates and end dates. Typically, you wouldn't have retirement as a global. It would be attached to each person. You might want to have global CPI increases and then tweak those. You can definitely do that with Kuhmo. We just wanted to show you some examples of some bits and pieces that some people, our customers, use Kuhmo for. The big thing there is you're not locked into a particular way to do your payroll planning. For some organizations, particularly service companies, payroll also drives revenue. So you can do that with Kuhmo. Again, that law firm is a good example of that. And this example does a few things. We've got the what if analysis, but it also does the allocations between different departments. So if you've got funds to manage, or you just want to allocate IT to finance then gets allocated through to all the profit centers, HR to all the profit centers, etc. You can do that as well with Kuhmo. Then clearly you've got your revenue planning, could be widgets times price, times volume, volume times price gives you your value, and you can tweak those prices and things as well. You might have currency fluctuations you need to deal with. Kuhmo can handle all of those different aspects within your environment and do it quite comfortably as well. Now you notice here I've got some other things. There's allocations, capital expenditure, product sales, etc. There's inventory reports. Accounts payable and receivables really interesting in the dynamic space. It can be quite a pain if you've got multiple entities to bring that together into one report, and Kuhmo can manage that very, very easily. And this is just an example of bringing together a whole bunch of different entities from around the world into one view that you can play with. And obviously selecting the date's going to change the 30, 60, 90, 90 plus view of this report. And as accounts receivable or customers come and go in that list, the list will change automatically. So there's a lot of flexibility and functionality within Kuhmo. So Angie, I'm going to pause there and throw it over to you and see if there's any questions.
Yes, a few have come in so far. First one is, can Kuhmo connect to other data sources?
That is a really good question. Yes, you definitely can. I think I may have touched on it once or twice, but Kuhmo is not a tool that's exclusively designed to plug into accounting ERP systems. We plug into systems like bespoke or homegrown sales systems. They're a classic where an organization started out small, didn't want to buy something off the shelf, or couldn't because they couldn't find something that fit their organization as they needed. So they built something in Microsoft SQL Server or another technology that's capturing all their sales and transactions and maybe inventory data. So we can connect to systems like that, as well as other web-based systems like, again, maybe there's subsidiaries with Intact or QuickBooks or any other data source, often Excel, cloud-based systems too, like Salesforce. We can have connectors for Salesforce and Microsoft CRM as well.
Okay, thank you. Next question is the same version of Kuhmo on the cloud as well as on premise? Yes,
it is. Yeah. So we have an agile development methodology, and actually I've got a screen for that. I'll show you on my slide deck here. So this screen here shows you on premises and cloud. It's an identical environment. We release more often to cloud. So say there's an issue or a new feature, it runs through our development and testing environment in our labs, and then we'll release it to the cloud first. And then depending on either what comes first here, whether a customer says, hey, I really like that new feature, can I have it please? Our dev team are able to hit one button and create a brand new install that again runs through all the tests and checks and balances and is ready to deploy on your site. Or we'll create an update once every quarter, which tends to be more often than people need, but it's available for people to have.
Okay, thank you. And my company does revenue planning, detailed revenue planning. Can Kuhmo do revenue planning?
Yeah, and that is a screen I just didn't have time to show, but yeah, you can absolutely do it. And revenue planning comes in so many different forms. You know, for some organisations, particularly government or some hospitals as well, it's grant based. So, you know, funds come in from private sector or from the government, local, federal, or otherwise, and those funds need to be allocated to people, to projects, etc. So that, you know, that's one model. The other is we sell stuff, and that stuff has a price tag, and that price is based on, you know, some measures that we've created. Maybe it's activity-based costing. We can do activity-based costing to figure out exactly how much a product costs, therefore how much we should price it to make a margin of X. So we can get pretty detailed in revenue planning.
Okay, thank you. And can Kuhmo do rolling forecasts?
Oh yeah, yeah. Rolling forecast, I'm going to skip a few slides here. That's all our security certification and stuff. Agile, I mentioned that. I want to show you these guys here. This is just some of our customers. Liberty Tax Service, they're a great customer of ours, Sizzling Platter, SSI, plus a whole bunch from around the world here. But these guys, Mantra Group, they do a reforecast. They do two. I think they might actually do more these days. But they're in the hospitality industry, specifically in hotels, big hotels, little hotels. They have over 140 hotels at any one point in time. They do every month a full reforecast of the business, and it's a 12-month rolling forecast. And it's a one-button press. You hit one button, and you can and it'll create a brand new scenario. Perhaps it's August 2018 forecast, and you'll take a snapshot of the last forecast and roll it forwards a month, and an email automatically goes out to over 600 people who contribute to that forecast, and within 4 hours the forecast is complete. People either review it or they don't. Most people do, and they can tweak their forecast based on what they know. And within that forecast, managers of the hotels, so a smaller number of people, all I need to do is change the occupancy rate within a hotel. So think of a Hilton, for instance, different brand, but think of a Hilton, and say there was going to be a conference and they were fully booked, but the conference got cancelled for some reason. That hotel, Mantra Group's hotel, are able to enter the data immediately, and the revenue planning office can take stock of that and start selling rooms on booking.com and other sources immediately. So forecasting is something that Kuhmo is really good at, and something that not a lot of organizations use heavily. But when you think about forecasting, it's where your organization's going, whereas reporting actuals is where you were yesterday, which is useful. You've got to use the two. But when you start budgeting and then automatically falling into that rolling forecast, that's where we see companies like Mantra Group just accelerate and do quite well, because they're always looking in the future. They're always able to change tactics, not necessarily strategies, but tactics along the way to make sure they're maximizing their revenues and their profits. But it's also used for strategic planning, because they can see trends coming before their competitors, and it makes them very competitive.
All right, well, thank you. And I think that's all the questions that we have.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Angie. I really appreciate Innovia having me online. It's been great.
No problem. Thank you. And we appreciate everyone who attended today, and just want to remind you that it has been recorded and it will be available for you to review again or share with anyone later this week on our website. That's innovia.com. And don't forget to go to our events page. We have a lot of upcoming webinars that we will be presenting on. We have 2 more yet this week, so register for those if you're interested. Tomorrow we have calendar sharing with Microsoft Office 365, and on Thursday we have 7 reasons you need Microsoft Dynamics 365 for Sales CRM. So be sure to check out our events and see if there's anything that catches your eye that you would like to attend. Well, thank you, Warwick. Very informative information, and thank you everyone for attending. We look forward to seeing you on one of our next webinars. Have a great day, everyone.